Many young men, and some not so young, are going nowhere fast while they search to find their passion or their purpose. They think it's going to fall out of the sky. It's not. They think that finding it would give them the path to happiness and fulfillment. It won't. Or maybe they believe it's the secret to founding the next tech company because they looked at Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, and a few others, and that's what they appeared to be doing. Or maybe they're just hoping for that seven-figure exit, just like those YouTubers whose channels they're watching. The truth is, if that's you while you're searching, happiness, fulfillment, and even success are passing you by. I'm Neil Bierbaum, and I provide a growth map for men, helping you to grow stronger and live deeper by standing on the three pillars of mindset, accountability, and purpose. In this video, I'm going to show you why the search for passion or purpose represents a false hope and can lead you down an unfulfilling path and even work against your ability to achieve whatever it is you're after. I'll also show you what you should be doing instead and what people can do to support you. So let's get right into it. Men, you don't need to find your passion. If your passion exists, it has already found you. It never leaves you alone. It's all you think about. You drive people mad with it. And I'm not talking about addictions or obsessions like gaming or finding the next unicorn startup. Those are mostly distractions or fantasies. I'm talking about men who have a giant, all-consuming desire to do one thing, to answer some inner calling, some unexplainable urge that's been with them since they can remember. A good example is Mr. Beast, the world's leading YouTuber with over 400 million subscribers. He's talked in interviews about how, ever since he was like 13 or so, he ate, slept, and drank YouTube in a way that would be unhealthy by most standards. He even advises that you don't do that. It was just his thing. But what many men do is they try to do what he did. In other words, do what Mr. Beast did, what Steve Jobs did, what Elon Musk did. Guys, that's not going to work. You can pick up a tip or two, but you can't replicate their success by trying to copy and paste everything they did. Because there's one thing you're missing, one thing you can't do or have access to, and that's this. They were being absolutely, unutterably themselves. There was no moment at which those men wandered around going, what's my passion? They didn't ever have to ask the question. Their passion chose them. They knew it from an early age. They were men of destiny. The only possibility those men might have thought they had was to run from their passion, and maybe some of them tried, because when you have a passion so great, it can be a huge burden. So maybe there were times where they tried to do something else, but the bottom line is, they knew it from an early age. It seized them, and it never let them go. So if you're wandering around asking what your passion is or not choosing a career because you haven't found your passion, then you're tormenting yourself for no reason. You've fallen prey to one of the great delusions of the age. The delusion that choice is some God-given right that provides the path to happiness. I'm sorry, but that's because you grew up, like me, in the age of advertising and marketing and have been conditioned to believe that choice is your salvation. You think that happiness is out there, and just the right choice will deliver it. But that's not it. Happiness is right in front of you, doing what you're doing right now, and it's not just me saying so. Both the ancient wisdoms and modern science will tell you that. Let's take a look, and we can arrive at the same conclusion via multiple paths. The first path that will lead us to this conclusion is Stoicism, and the idea that it's not life's events, but your attitude or approach to those events that determine your happiness. That's a philosophy that's been around since Roman times, and it was there long before in Buddhism and the Tao and other Eastern philosophies. And if you're a modern science guy, well, science backs that up too. You'll find it most explicitly in the studies of the flow state or the state of optimal experience done by Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, who was the professor of psychology at Chicago University. And he found that the flow state, or the state of optimal experience, which is that ideal state where we kind of get lost in the activity and lose track of time, and which has been linked repeatedly to happiness, by the way, that state has nothing to do with what you do and everything to do with how you do it. He did these experiments back in the 70s and 80s. It was in the days before cell phones, and he gave people a clipboard in a backpack and a pager. And when the pager beeped, they had to record what they were doing and what they were experiencing, their levels of energy, clarity, focus, satisfaction, and so on. And he gave that to all kinds of people, from farm workers to dock workers, to office workers, surgeons, orchestra conductors, even bike gang members. It was one of the biggest social studies ever done. And what he found was that getting into that flow state or state of optimal experience had almost nothing to do with what you do and everything to do with how you do it. The most important elements were that it challenges your skill levels in a way that requires focus and that it produces a meaningful outcome. And here's where we read that bit wrong. We think that a meaningful outcome means it has to be in line with some abstract thing called a passion or a purpose. But that's not what he meant. A meaningful outcome can be something as simple as providing for your family or making a contribution to the people around you. And he gives examples of people who could find meaningful outcomes in the worst situations, even prisoners of war. So let's get real here for a moment. I live in Johannesburg, South Africa, a city that was quite literally built on gold. The African name for it is Egoli, the place of gold. Probably half the gold ever mined in the history of the world has come from the gold mines under this city. Many of them go down 4 or 5 kilometers underground. You can take a tour to some of the old unused mines. It's all clean and air-conditioned, but if you use your imagination, you can get a sense of how tough and frightening it must have been. They worked so far underground, it took them more than an hour in a rickety cage lift just to get down. Think about that. Then they'd work 18-hour shifts in temperatures of 40 to 50 degrees Celsius. That's like 110 to 120 Fahrenheit. Just drilling, blasting, dragging, and breaking rocks. If something happened to you when you were down there, you had a problem. And a lot did happen. Fatality rates were high. And I'm getting to a point with this. Those men who worked on the gold mines left homes in the rural areas and migrated to Johannesburg, where they lived in prison-like hostels, many to a room, and worked in the conditions I've just described. And their purpose was to send money home to their families, their villages, their societies. They made these major sacrifices, risked their lives even, to make a contribution. It was the knowledge that they were doing that gave them meaning. That was their purpose. And Csikszentmihalyi, the flow state guy, coined a term for people who could experience hardship like that, still find a meaning or purpose in it, and come out stronger. And he called it the autotelic personality. That means being able to make the most of any situation or find the meaning, the purpose, no matter what the conditions. And there's one more thing to know before I land my point. He also found that we achieve the flow state twice as often at work than we do at home. And why? Because work tasks meet the criteria for the flow state. They challenge our skill level and therefore focus our attention. And when we're working, we're also making a contribution, whether it's to our team, to the business, its customers, and the people we might be supporting, our families and communities. So what does all this tell us? Firstly, we can predict that many of our miners, gold miners, would have found themselves in that flow state or state of optimal experience despite the apparent lack of choice, the lack of control over their environment, and the extreme conditions. They were challenged. They had a purpose. Secondly, it tells us that your search for passion and purpose takes you in the exact opposite direction from what you're looking for. And why? Because you're not fully engaged in your life. You're rejecting instead of embracing the task in front of you. You're not finding the meaning you already have, the small contribution you're already making. No, that's not enough for you. You want your passion and purpose to be some great earth-shattering thing. You want to change the world or influence 1 billion lives. You want to be like Steve Jobs or Elon Musk. And why? I'll let you answer that one. The point is that if you spend half your life wondering about your passion, you're not engaging fully in your life, so you're not getting the most out of it. Then you think it's because you need to do more of the thing, the daydreaming and speculating, that's causing you to be disengaged in the first place. Another view is that it's the modern-day form of hunting. Your male brain likes to hunt. But with nothing real to hunt, you hunt ideas. You hunt your passion and your purpose. Your brain gets a little dopamine hit every time you think of one. And it's a good look. You come across as an earnest seeker. It's just not going to deliver. And if you believe it will, then you're deluding yourself. You're setting yourself up for major disappointment when you get to midlife or old age and you haven't quite found it. And then you feel like a failure and discover that you missed your actual life because you weren't paying attention to it. So in a minute, I'll tell you how you could go about things instead. First, I thought it might be useful to approach the subject through one more lens, just in case I still need to convince you. But it's a useful perspective as well, just to put everything into context. And that is to look at societies in the Middle Ages, where the eldest son mostly would inherit the estate, while the youngest sons were allotted to the military, the clergy, to civic duty or some form of commerce, and often against their will. A good example of this can be seen in the series The Borgias, where the Pope's second son, Cesare, is forced into the clergy despite his dreams of being a military leader, and his story arc is how he struggles with the dissonance of that. And even the sons of middle and lower class families were recruited to become sailors or foot soldiers, and then were sent on these precarious missions where many of them died. And once again, choice was not a big part of it. You pretty much did as you were directed. There was not a lot of drifting around figuring out what your passion or your purpose was. And once again, those men would have felt they were making a contribution. And once again, even while that was going on, there were exceptions, which prove the rule, which prove what I'm saying. There were those men who had a unique talent or passion and who inevitably followed that, who were so determined to be soldier, trader, priest, that nothing could stop them. Take Christopher Columbus. He was born into a family of weavers, so not a nobleman, and yet he convinced the Spanish king to fund his passion as an explorer. Another was David Livingstone, who started as a clergyman and became a great African explorer. Then there's Napoleon, Lawrence of Arabia, St. Francis of Assisi, Van Gogh, and so on. But as I said, these exceptions prove the rule, because the one thing we can say for sure is that those men did not go in search of their passion. It found them, just as Steve Jobs and Elon Musk's passions found them. And if we were all Steves and Elons, it would be very crowded in that corner office and there'd be nobody to do the work. Maybe that's what AI is supposed to be doing for us. Who knows? The point is, we can't all be Elons and Steves. So I'm sorry, guys, I don't have good news for you. And yet, I think this should be good news. It means you can stop wasting your life chasing rainbows, searching for something that's not real. You can stop engaging half-heartedly in your current job and thinking it's because you need to find your passion. You can discover that passion isn't what you put in, it's what you get out when you take the right approach. And what you need to do is to give up thinking that happiness lies out there somewhere, under the rainbow, where your passion is hiding. Recognize that it's right there where you are. If you give up the search, your energy won't be divided. You'll feel free to do your job wholeheartedly. And when you do that, when you focus on the task in front of you, you'll experience intrinsic rewards. There's your passion. And you'll most likely get extrinsic rewards because you'll perform better. You'll build a reputation, make connections, maybe even get offers and invitations, and through that your path will emerge, and that's your purpose. It will find you. It may not be a big thunderbolt from the sky or as all-consuming as a Jobs or a Musk, and that's okay. And if you don't have a job because you're still searching for your passion, then find one. Almost anyone will do, I promise you. Then engage in it wholeheartedly. Be productive. Do more than is asked of you. Recognize the contribution that you are making to the world around you, the way those underground miners did. Or like the story of when the president visited the NASA headquarters and he asks the janitor, "What do you do?" And the janitor said, "I help put people in space." Be like that guy. Celebrate the contributions you already make as a colleague, a partner, a friend, a citizen. Do some learning on the side. Get a hobby. Exercise more. That's your purpose, to live a good life. And don't get me wrong. I'm not saying you can't pursue dreams or find your passion, but do it this way around instead of looking for some big thing. Look for it in the small things, and the big things, if they are meant for you, will come to you. Your passion will find you. And it can be a small thing. It doesn't have to be a big thing. And if you're the partner or parent of a man who's not engaging fully in life because he's waiting to find his passion, get him to pay the rent. Challenge him to meet his obligations and make a contribution. That will compel him to take action in a direction. And even though he may resist, it will put him on a better path to fulfillment than waiting for some passion to fall out the sky. So push him a little bit. If he complains, just tell him to be grateful that he's not going down a gold mine every day. So if you're starting out with me, I'm Neil Beerbaum, and I provide a growth map for men, helping you to grow stronger and live deeper by standing on the 3 pillars of mindset, accountability, and purpose. Subscribe if you want practical tools to strengthen your mindset, build a congruent sense of self, and live with purpose. And to explore modern masculinity through mindfulness, psychology, and coaching, and not through cliches or opinions or reactive emotion. And maybe you know someone you could share this with. Also, check out some of my other videos, and let me know in the comments what area of growth you're facing a challenge with right now that you'd like me to address. And remember, you're not just a man, you're a man growing stronger and living deeper.